It is the year 172. The empire's northern frontier is a smear of smoke and cold mud, and inside a leather tent stitched against the wind, a man in his 50s sits with a wax tablet on his knee. He is the most powerful human being on the planet, and he is writing, in Greek, a note to himself that no one is ever supposed to read. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. He is Marcus Aurelius Antoninus Augustus, Emperor of Rome since the year 161, last of the so-called 5 good emperors. He is also, on this particular night, a man with a chronic stomach condition, an ambitious son he privately worries about, a co-emperor who has just died of plague, and a war on the Danube that refuses to end. He is not happy. He is something more useful than happy. What we call the meditations, ta is heauton, things to himself, is not a book. It was never a book. It was a private practice, tablets, notebook entries, the same way you might keep a journal during a divorce or a war or a long stretch of grief. He never titled it. He never edited it for an audience. He did not arrange the chapters. Most of what he wrote at the edge of a battlefield he could not win quickly, in a body that hurt, missing people who were dead. Stoicism at its center is not about being cold. It is not about suppressing feeling. The cliche of the unmoved Roman is a marketing problem the philosophy has had for 2,000 years. What Stoicism actually is, what Marcus is doing in that tent, is a discipline of attention, a discipline about where you put your mind when something has gone wrong. He divides the world into 2 columns. Things up to me, things not up to me. On one side, your judgments, your intentions, the use you make of your own attention. On the other side, everything else. The weather, the plague, the Senate, your reputation, your body, whether the people you love stay alive. Almost everything that matters in the conventional sense is in the second column. Adversity, in Marcus's framework, is not a special category. Adversity is simply the second column showing up in full. It is the universe declining to consult you. And the only thing the first column controls, when the second column hits, is the response. Around the year 165, soldiers returning from a campaign in the East bring something invisible back with them. We now think it was smallpox. The Romans called it the Antonine plague, after the family name of the emperors who lived through it. Over the next 15 years, it kills, by some estimates, 5 to 10% of the population of the empire. In some legions, it kills more than that. Marcus loses his co-emperor, Lucius Verus, to it. He loses, over the course of his life, 8 of his 13 children. He buries them as the empire is buckling. He writes, "Pass through this brief patch of time as nature intends, and come to your final resting place gently, just as a ripe olive falls, praising the earth that bore it, grateful to the tree that grew it." That is a father writing. Here is the sentence I want to sit with. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In Greek, it is tighter. To anista menon te praxe, the thing that stands against the doing. He is not saying obstacles are good. He is not saying suffering is a gift. That is the modern wellness mistranslation of him. What he is saying is much more precise. Action has a shape. When something blocks that shape, The action does not simply stop. The blockage becomes the next thing the action has to do. If you are trying to cross a river and a tree has fallen across it, you are going to ford the river. Now you are going to climb a tree. You are still moving. The thing in your way has been promoted from obstacle to subject. In the tent, this is not theory. This is technique. The plague in his army is in his way. The Marcomanni and the Quadi on the far bank of the Danube are in his way. The dying child in the next tent is in his way. His own grief is in his way. And he sits down every night and writes the same kind of sentence to himself. Not, this is fine. Not, this is good. This is now the work. One of Marcus's most repeated practices in the Meditations is something modern translators call the view from above. He pulls his mind deliberately out of his own body and lifts it. He imagines the camp from the height of a circling bird, then from the height of the clouds, then higher. He sees the legions as small dark squares, the river as a thin gray line, the empire as a smudge of light on the surface of a turning world. And then he sees the centuries. He writes, "Soon you will have forgotten everything. Soon everything will have forgotten you." He is not being morbid. He is doing something specific. He is using scale to detune his suffering, not to deny it, to put it in proportion. We are very good at zooming in on adversity, the bill, the diagnosis, the argument, the lost job. We rehearse it, we script it, we loop it. Marcus's discipline is to zoom out on purpose and let the loop look small. Not unimportant, small. Those are different. Marcus identifies again and again two specific enemies of the disciplined mind under adversity. The first is anticipatory misery, suffering things in advance. The second is narrative resentment, suffering things again after they are done by retelling them to yourself as injustice. He is brutal about both. On the first, he says, more or less, do not let the future disturb you. You will meet it if you must, with the same weapons of reason that you use today against the present. On the second, he asks a simple question that, honestly, I think about almost every day. Is what's making you suffer the thing that happened, or your story about the thing that happened? He had every reason to tell himself stories. Betrayed by a trusted general, Avidius Cassius, who declared himself emperor in the East in 175, Marcus marched to confront him. Before they met, Cassius's own officers killed him. Marcus is recorded as having mourned the man who tried to usurp him. He did not want the story. He wanted the man back alive, so the story could be different. It would be dishonest to end without naming what he is not. Marcus Aurelius is not a self-help author. He is an emperor with absolute power, writing in a slave-holding empire that he never fundamentally challenges. He persecutes some of his subjects. He fights wars whose justice we would now question. He hands the throne to his son Commodus, a decision history regards as catastrophic. He is a human being. The notebooks are not scripture, but the notebooks are honest. That is rarer than wisdom. He records the days he fails. He records the days he is petty, irritable, frightened. He scolds himself in writing for resenting people who interrupted his work. He does not solve adversity. He simply refuses to be ruled by it on most days. And on the days he is ruled by it, he writes that down too and tries again the next morning. He died, probably of the plague, in the year 180, in Vindobona, what is now Vienna, or possibly in Sirmium. on the Danube, at the front, with the war still unfinished. His tablets traveled south with his retinue, and eventually, by routes we cannot fully trace, made their way into the libraries of the Byzantine East. We almost lost them, more than once. What survives is a man, at the end of a long day, writing the same handful of reminders to himself. That the obstacle is the path. That the view from above is available to anyone who chooses it. That suffering once is enough. That the second and third helpings, the anticipations and the resentments, are not required. You do not have to be an emperor to use this. You only have to be a person who, at the end of some difficult day, picks up something, a notebook, a phone, a piece of paper, and writes one honest sentence to yourself about the day. That is the practice. That is the entire practice. Everything else is commentary. Stone and iron. Thank you for sitting with this one. If essays like this are useful to you, the channel is here for them. Subscribe if you want more.